Hello, beautiful beings. I'm Kels, aka Soulful Sage, your soulful guide, bringing you all things wellness. If you are looking to glow up your life holistically, mind, body, and soul, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a star in the comments to let me know you joined the Divine Glow Tribe. So, we're going to get right into it. My spiritual awakening. So, how I describe this is sometimes life will throw you into situations or put you into situations that catapult you into the next level of your life, into the next level of consciousness in your life, and it can be unexpected. And that's exactly what happened for me. So, the main way that I knew I was having a spiritual awakening was simply that I had a loss of familiarity in my life. This happened when I was 18. I just graduated and was getting ready to leave home for school. And in the course of about 3 months, my life flipped upside down. And that's just because I am a creature of habit. I was used to seeing the same people, doing the same thing, having the same routine, being around my family, my parents, my siblings, and then I decided to move about 4 hours away to Atlanta, Georgia for school. Now, I had no idea that I probably had struggled with anxiety before this time, but as soon as I moved and was on my own, my anxiety became really, really heavy. And I was feeling nervous and anxious all the time just from not being around the same environment. So, in combination with having like this change of scenery that kind of felt unfamiliar and triggered anxiety for me, I also had just experienced one of my first friendships, relationships that helped me to understand my sexuality. And so not only was I moving away from home, but I had recently come out to myself. I knew that I liked women and wanted to be in same sex relationships. And this was honestly really a turning point for me because I recognized these feelings that I had had all my life. And now I was faced with the reality of being a queer person, being a gay person in the South, and having to not only start a new life in college, but also figure out how I was going to be this new person around my family. And for a lot of people, that can be very difficult because we are so used to our family seeing us one way, and now we have to have comfortability with them seeing us in a new way. And for me, I was barely comfortable expressing or telling anyone because it was so new to me. I think I told my best friend first and then my brother and like my roommate in college who was also my friend from high school. And that was, the most simple part of the process, but literally undoing my, ways that I was taught to grow up and to do things and who I was supposed to be in relationships with, because my parents definitely never were, telling me that it was okay for me to be with another woman. Like, this is not something that I heard growing up at all. And so that loss of familiarity really kind of felt like the rug being pulled under from me. And a lot of times, if you guys are familiar with tarot, this for me was like the tower card of my life. Literally, like death and rebirth, the biggest transformation that I had ever made up to this point. And a lot of times, that is what will catapult us into our spiritual awakening, because shortly after that, through the emotional and mental torment kind of really just being like, wow, my life is completely different now, I really needed something to lean on. And I researched spirituality and got into tarot and astrology and all these occult things to help me understand what I was going through. Which brings me to the next way that I knew that I was going through a spiritual awakening was because of the life shift. My life literally, in the course of like 3 to 4 months, it was literally from the time I graduated over the summer and into like September, October of that year, where my anxiety was at a peak. And I really was just, experiencing some interesting things in my life, lots of transformation. And that is like so pivotal to your spiritual awakening because you become aware of things that you weren't aware of before. And that's really how I knew that this was spiritual. It was no longer physical because my emotions and my consciousness, what I understood, and the way that I saw life was changing. And that literally is the core of a spiritual awakening is you becoming aware that you are a human, having a physical experience, but you are also a spiritual being, and that there's a sense of knowing that when you belong, and when you don't, you don't. As we grow up and we're kind of indoctrinated into this, society as children, we go through school and we're taught, okay, we need to get a job and, go to college and get married and all of these things. And when that's flipped upside down for you and you no longer align with those things, it takes a new level of consciousness to create the life that you want for yourself. Because I automatically knew, okay, I'm not going to be getting married to a man, so what is my life going to look like? It was an existential crisis, honestly. And so that's why I say when things begin to look unfamiliar in our lives, that can definitely be a sign that we are going through a spiritual awakening. Because you're out of your comfort zone. There's so much uncertainty, and this causes you to rely on your spirit and knowing that everything is going to be okay from inside, And so that's why I really had to, lean on my relationships as well with my brother and just kind of talking through it with him. He is also queer, and so he could relate to some of the things that I was going through. But for me, it was a different experience as the eldest daughter, as the middle child. My parents definitely did not expect me to, be queer. I guess no one expects their child to be queer these days, even though I feel like, my personal belief is that there is no such thing as a binary, and it's a social construct. So people should be able to know from the time they're born that they can choose to be with a person for who that person is and not because of their sex. But that's just me. And that is one of the things that I created in my new consciousness. I had to manifest my life from a point zero, because everything that I was told, it became untrue to me. And that is also when you're having a spiritual awakening, because you start to question things. You start to see things differently and see the world in a new light than you ever had before. So these situations kind of force you to open your eyes, and it can come in a lot of different ways. It can come in as family betrayal. It can come in as, death. Because the second time that I was going through a spiritual awakening, yes, I've had more than one, and you can have more than one, I noticed the same things happening in my life. So the first time was when, I came out, I left my home as a teenager and moved out on my own. I came out and just life kind of flipped upside down. The second time that I feel as though I had a spiritual awakening was with the loss of my father and the aftermath of that, because my father passed suddenly at the age of 55. Weeks before I was supposed to get married. So, of course, again, another situation where my life as I know it is flipped upside down. My dad was literally one of my best friends, if not my best friend, and that emotional connection was now gone, right? With a parent. That's so much stability, so much of what you've known your whole life is now gone. And again, I felt like I started to question everything in my life. I didn't understand why this could have happened. I didn't understand, now that I was going to have a spiritual relationship with my father instead of, one that's earthly, that I can communicate and talk to him and him respond. It was just like this new world that I was being introduced to, but also so much loss that I could not conceptualize. And so I also want to say that when you are kind of forced into these situations, the universe doesn't always happen like this, of course. I don't want to scare anyone and make them think that just you have to go through these situations to have a spiritual awakening, because you don't. It can be a pleasant time, and I'm not saying that it was all terrible, but these situations, these life changes catapulted me into a new level of consciousness. And ultimately, it is literally the reason why I am who I am today as a spiritual being, as someone who is a spiritual guide and mentor, because I have been through these situations that helped me to learn life and know life cycles. And that's really the other thing that I want to hone in on as well, is that when you understand that you're a spirit, you understand that everything is changing. The only thing that's constant is change. You've been here before. You have lived life before. I started to connect with my, spiritual family, my wife. shortly after I came out, and, just going through situations and with people, also relationships who, when I came out, the person who helped me understand this was a friend, but we're no longer friends, so this person was there for a lesson. You might start to meet up with people who, are sent to your life specifically for this time to help you wake up, right? And so, these situations can also cause you to have a lot of alone time, force you kind of to be by yourself and investigate your own feelings. And this is very, jarring, and can be very jarring for some people, because a lot of us just like to go through life not spending time by ourselves, not addressing or reflecting on life at all. And we're just on autopilot. We're not even conscious. We're not aware of the life we're living. We're not even really making decisions for ourselves, because we're literally just following the path that, sorry guys, my memory card was full. So I was saying that you basically are in these situations that force you to see things and observe them in new ways and actually think for yourself. And that is what an awakening is: waking up to life, your spirit, and seeing it with new eyes, instead of just taking everyone else's idea of life that they have put on you and forced on you and told you that you had to be, and transforming that. And that's how you get also on a path of manifesting. And, awakening is sometimes challenging, because you never see things the same again. Once you're awake, it's like you can't change what you know. You now know that you are in control of your life more than you thought you were, and more than people had ever told you, and that, especially if you're someone who may be religious, it is kind of conflicting, because I was raised Christian, Baptist, to know God. And not to say that I don't honor God on my spiritual journey, but knowing that God also resides in me and gives me the ability and power to, be in his image and create the life that I desire and co-created with him, that was a totally different idea. So I dove deep into spirituality and, learning about crystals, learning about how to meditate, reading Eckhart Tolle, and all of these, Osho, all of these authors who talk about, life, awakenings, changes, love, and like I said, I was coming in these meeting people and spirits and souls who are on my soul path and my soul contract. So things just started to align and make sense from there. But it definitely started off pretty tumultuous for me and being catapulted into this spiritual awakening. And again, this can come, through losing a friendship, losing a job, losing a loved one, many different ways. They don't always have to be painful. You could watch a movie or read a book that causes you to question what you've known and awaken to your true soul and your soul's path. Awaken to who you are as a soul and your soul's path, as a wise being, because there's so much wisdom for us once we realize who we are. And, just like the Akashic records, there's guidance from our spirit guides and our ancestors that we are opened up to, and can become aligned with more easily once we are spiritually awakened and spiritually aware, conscious, of the assistance that the universe provides us with. Last thing I want to talk about is some of the physical signs of spiritual awakening that I noticed, and then give some tips if you are feeling like you're going through a similar situation, but you don't know how to push yourself through and keep going on the spiritual journey, because I totally understand you and I have been in your shoes. I definitely noticed like some body sensations. I noticed a lot of energy in my third eye area. I would kind of feel like there was something there. And, I was put in situations where I would have to trust my intuition and just trust my gut. That is also some physical signs that you notice, like your intuition is picking up. You start to kind of see things kind of before they happen, and especially maybe in your relationships, you know that a conversation is going to need to be had before you even get to that day or time. You know, it can come in different ways for you, but definitely look into meditating for this so that you can learn to trust your intuition and your inner voice that is guiding you and telling you things are okay. For me personally, I just knew that my soul was okay with me being a queer woman. You know, I had like flashbacks of experiences that I had in childhood where I would have like crushes on girls and, you know, just not really be interested in, you know, male attention or anything like that. And I knew that there was a reason for that. You know, I just had to reflect on my personal experience and trust my inner knowing, you know, in that situation. And that helped me to be confident in my decision as well. Once I knew that my spirit was okay with who I am and who I probably have been in many lifetimes. You might also notice like some changes in your sleep patterns, increased sensitivity, you know, to light. You may be waking up at like 3 or 4 a.m. and just can't go back to sleep. These are times to meditate. These are times to tune in with your inner voice. And I would say also, if you are in those situations where your spiritual awakening, you know, caused you to lose friends or have to spend more time by yourself, embrace that. Get to know who you are and remember who you are. You know, go back to your childhood. Think about what you love to do. And that can really help you to embrace and open up your creativity as a spiritual being so that you can manifest, because you are a vessel of creation and creativity. And last but not least, I really went on a very strict yoga regimen. I was doing yoga every single day for a whole year. It was allowing me to really integrate the lessons and the knowledge that I was remembering as I was awakening and integrate these things into my life. Be a person who had boundaries now. You know, I never knew what a boundary was, but I had to start to implement them in my life and in these relationships that were more so spiritual lessons, you know. And that came to show me something about myself, because relationships are always going to be mirrors for us. So just embracing these things and allowing myself to have an outlet. And for me, that was yoga. I was stretching because I also had like bodily sensations. And so if you feel like, you know, maybe you do have that energy in your third eye, meditate. Or maybe you do have, you know, maybe some back pain or, you know, tension in your body. Definitely do some yoga and stretching, because it's going to help you to just integrate that. And you know, your spine is aligned and connected with your kundalini energy and your awakening. So it's great to do some cat cows daily and regularly, you know, downward dog, even sitting in child's pose. These meditative states and meditative poses just help you, again, align with your spirit and with your soul's purpose. I hope this video was helpful to you guys, and comment below, let me know if you resonated with it, if you've had a similar experience with your spiritual awakening, and definitely stay tuned for more videos like this. I appreciate you guys. Love you so much for watching. I hope this message met you well, and I will see you on the next one. Peace. Audio Jungle.